That's right, you're in the right place at the right time, just where you are meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. In the right place, I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Join me in saying good morning to those that are live streaming. Good morning. You're in the right place at the right time. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. Oh, my soul is. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. I'm getting the message. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 My soul is welcome. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Reverend Louise.
Good morning, Elaine. And welcome to all of you. Wow. In the chatter, in the warmth, in the love, and in the spirit that is the season and this community, the loving warmth and vibrancy of Spiritual Life Center. And we want to welcome you if you are here for the very first time or you are a long-time attendee, whether you're live stream watching or sitting here with us, or even those sitting in the courtyard or in the annex. We know that you're never here by accident. You are always here by divine appointment. And we are so grateful you kept that appointment today. Another appointment we would love for you to keep is with your cell phones on silent or off. Thank you.
And now on this December morning, we hold our 9 a.m. greeter, Carolyn Flender, in our prayers for her healing journey after experiencing a stroke last week. We see Carolyn and all our fellow beings who are in this healing time of their lives, expressing their wholeness and the possibilities on our cellular level. And as we see all of our masters and teachers of divine love serving all in our world who are suffering in any way, feel that love and light of this season that is rich and full of the mystery and celebration of the birth of one of the world's greatest teachers. This gift of love, his way of walking in the world, truly brought hope, peace, love, and joy that are the essence of his teachings. And we hold to that illumination, seen in the true and living spiritual ways of his teachings, a life and a living that transcends any perceived human projections. And we trust in the feeding of the goodness through our gathering, through the wisdom and humor and beautiful connections that happen here at Spiritual Life Center. All that goodness is transmitted through the vibration of positive and loving intent. And this morning, we open our hearts as well to experience and to learn from a beautiful Jewish faith tradition, as we learn and we experience being the light and love of God's presence ourselves. And so it is, and so it will be.
And so it is that we have our own Reverend Becca Costello with us this morning. She is She is our communications director. She's also an interfaith minister who fell in love with a Hebrew Judaica teacher and, by extension, the Jewish holidays. She looks forward to celebrating Hanukkah with us today, and she invites everyone to come play the dreidel games in the courtyard and have a jelly donut. Please warmly welcome Reverend Becca Costello. And this week, our Wednesday program is our first candlelight service of the season. You won't want to miss the timing here. It's our beautiful SLC choir and that living nativity, those characters that have relevance for all of us in every facet of our living. So there will be no soup on Wednesday, and not just for you, but for everyone.
No soup for you.
No soup for you. No soup for anyone. The doors are going to open, we say, at between 6 and 6:30, the choir will be practicing. Then at 6:45, join us if you want to do the Christmas caroling with our community. And then the program will start at 7.
And then we will have only one contemplative Sunday service next Sunday at 11 a.m. That is going to be a program with Deborah, Reverend Deborah Phillips, and our own Reverend James Strapp. And they are going to present a program called Is There Christmas Without Jesus? So you'll want to join us then. The music will be done by our amazing Paula Mandela. And then that evening, Christmas Eve on the 24th, we will have our last candlelight service. The doors will also open at between 4 and 4:30. The community sing-along at 4:45 and the actual service at 5 o'clock. So again, on Sunday, next Sunday, only 11 a.m., and join us at doors opening at 4:30 for the 5 o'clock last candlelight service.
And then on Christmas morning, which is Monday, the 25th, Reverend Becca is going to host a community drop-in potluck. So it's a time to gather together in community. Bring your favorite seasonal dish, and at 10 o'clock, just join for a casual, festive morning, a great way to kick off Christmas.
I asked if we can wear our pajamas so she says yes. So breakfast potluck on Christmas in your PJs if you'd like.
And then, so that's on Christmas Day. Then on the 31st, we have 2 services. We've got the Blessing of World Religions at 11 o'clock, only one service that day. And then it's also going to be our Burning Bowl. So it's a beautiful time to gather together and start your season out really beautifully. So for that Blessing of World Religions, that's Reverend Deborah Phillips and the Interfaith team. And then I think before we bring Sherry up, there's something here on the altar. What is this?
Oh, thank you. Is that for me?
Yeah. So the choir is having a bake sale. It's their international cookie collection, and you too can take home. There's just a few left. Do we know how many are actually left? There's one left? Is this the only one? Okay, it's going on auction. Okay, there's not much left. So you know where to go right after service.
The 9 a.m. people really lucked out.
Absolutely. So now we want to welcome I said that again. Sherry Rain is our chaplain director, and with her is Michael Dean Rogers.
Good morning. Yes, So we are quickly approaching New Year's Eve, and the end of the year is the perfect time for reflection, to check in and see what it is that you want to carry forward into the new year and what it is that you don't. And so we have a beautiful burning bowl service, an opportunity for you to release anything that you do not wish to carry forward. And this is a full night, and so people always get confused at the times of the service. And this year we also shifted it around, so just to add extra confusion. So the service starts at 7 o'clock, and then come early for chili and cornbread dinner, somewhere between 5 and 5:30. We welcome the flow.
Come on up, Ted.
Hello? Hey. All right.
So before we get started, I wanted to ask you a question. I've been researching Hanukkah literally for months for this talk today, and there's one thing that I just can't figure out.
Oh, what is that?
How do you spell Hanukkah?
It's very easy. It's just Chet, Nun, Vav, Kaf, He.
What now? Wait, where are you? Oh, you brought a visual aid.
You'd be surprised how often this question comes up. So it's Chet, Nun, Vav, Kaf, He.
Okay, well that's the Hebrew. How do you spell it in English?
Okay, that's a little more complicated. So you can start with your H or your CH, then you need an A, one or two N's to follow, then another A, one or two K's. Two K's might be overkill. You want an A and or an AH at the end. Now, the minimalist philosophy is you don't need that H at the end, whereas the East Coast people believe that the H kind of adds a certain...
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. Okay, how do you say Hanukkah when it starts with a C like that?
Okay, that is Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Okay, let's just keep it simple. How about when it starts with an H?
Okay, that would be Hanukkah.
Wait, that sounds exactly the same.
It's exactly the same holiday.
Oh. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with all of you. I do not think that I am pronouncing Hanukkah correctly. Sorry for hurting your ear there. And I have to say it about 35 more times in the next 15 minutes. Is it okay to just say Hanukkah?
If it's okay for me to say Christmas.
Deal. So, are you ready to get started lighting the candles?
We pronounce it candles.
Really?
I'm not. Just kidding.
Oh, and if any of you know the Hebrew Hanukkah blessings, please join in with us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh.
Ted, thank you so much for lighting the candles on our menorah today. We have to say goodbye to Ted because he is going to play dreidel with the youth ed department right now. So thank you, Ted.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Aren't those Hebrew blessings beautiful? Okay, but honestly, who wants to know what the heck we just said? Anybody? All right, I see some hands going up. Okay. So we said 2 Hebrew blessings, and the first was a blessing to God, who gives us rituals to make our life sacred and commands us to light the Hanukkah candles. And the second roughly translates as, "Blessed are you, God, who performed wondrous deeds for our ancestors in the days of old at this season." So what were those wondrous deeds? And what is Hanukkah? And how can this ancient tradition be a guiding light for all of us today? To answer that, I need to give you a quick Cliff's Notes version of some ancient Middle Eastern history. We're going to condense several hundred years of complex religious and socio-political events into a few minutes here. So everybody hold on to your latkes. Now, once upon a time, there was a land called Judea. And when I say once, I actually mean for about 1,000 years, starting around 934 BCE. Now, Judea had mountains and deserts and gorgeous coastline, and in the center was the Jewish temple in the city of Jerusalem. And just south of Jerusalem was the little town of Bethlehem, where one December night, a star appeared in the sky, and 3 wise men came from the east to see the birth of a child who would... Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's Christmas. That's next Sunday's topic. This is Hanukkah Sunday. But Christmas just tries to overshadow everything at this time of year, doesn't it? Now, the Hanukkah and Christmas stories happened in the same place, Judea, within the same Jewish culture at the same time of year. But to tell the Hanukkah story, we have to go back in time about 160 years before Jesus was born. And I promise I'm not going to spend much time talking about Jesus today, but in case you are wondering, yes, Jesus did celebrate Hanukkah. In the Bible, in the book of John, it says, the festival of dedication, Hanukkah, took place. It was winter, and Jesus was walking in the temple. There is no word on whether he played dreidel while he was there. So here we are in Judea, long before there was no room at the inn, with the Jewish temple in Jerusalem at the center of it all. And if you were Jewish in those days, the temple was the place where you maintained your connection with God. Even if you lived in the outlying areas away from Jerusalem, you and absolutely everyone you knew would journey to the temple at least 3 times a year to observe the rituals and festivals required by your faith. And as long as you stayed connected to God through these spiritual practices, then God would look after you and your family and make sure that your needs were met. All of the Jewish community donated to the temple treasury to sustain these religious rituals, and people in the culture who needed help, widows and orphans, they could come to the temple and get support from these shared community resources. So the temple, both spiritually and literally, kept the Jewish people alive. Now, little Judea just happened to be located in a prime spot of coastline right between 2 huge military empires, Egypt and Syria, which often battled over who controlled Judea. And the Jewish people, recognizing themselves to be small in numbers, did not usually attempt to sway the outcome of these battles. They were accustomed to having their land controlled by one empire or another. It had been happening for centuries. And as long as they practiced their faith at the temple, they trusted God to provide for them. So they didn't necessarily care which foreign government they had to pay taxes to at the end of the day. And for their parts, the heads of these foreign governments tended to stay out of Jewish religious life entirely. Until, dun dun dun, ominous music, Antiochus IV became the ruler of Syria in 175 BCE. For a variety of complex political and military reasons that are too numerous to untangle on this glorious Sunday, Antiochus IV put the smackdown on Jewish religious life in an effort to better control Judea and secure it within his empire. He and his troops invaded the Jewish temple and went right into the sacred inner chamber where no one but the Jewish high priest was ever allowed to enter. They took all the ritual objects, golden menorahs, sacred cloths, and tools preserved for centuries, and they shipped them back to Syria. They erected statues of Greek deities and declared the Jewish temple was now open for sacrifices to these new trendy gods with any animals available, kosher or not. Before long, the Jewish high priest was displaced, and some guy who knew Antiochus bribed his way into the position, spent the Jewish community's treasury, and then was usurped by another guy who knew a guy, as the sacred role of temple high priest quickly became just another side hustle for government cronies. And this chaos extended beyond the temple itself. New laws made it illegal to read the Torah, observe the Sabbath, or practice any Jewish rituals or holy days anywhere in Judea. and the punishment was death. So if you are Jewish at this time, what are you going to do? If you fall in line with the new laws, then your connection to God is broken. Actually, it may already be broken now that the temple has been desecrated. And your connection to God is what keeps you alive. You cannot go back on your faith. But if you practice your faith, you will be killed by the powers that be. Historians tell us that just weeks after the new laws were enacted, Antiochus' troops held a public execution of defiant Jewish parents who had had their newborns circumcised, and the babies were killed as well. And after that, many Jewish people escaped to the hills to camp in the wilderness and practice their faith. But the armies followed them and attacked them on the Sabbath, when religious law forbid the Jewish people to defend themselves, and all were killed. Okay, so some of you are looking at me funny, like, Becca, didn't you promise us games and jelly donuts today? Why do I feel like I'm watching Game of Thrones again? And I get it. Hanukkah is intense, right? When I first started celebrating Hanukkah with Ted, I thought it was going to be all colorful candles and that one Adam Sandler song. But but the history behind it is actually pretty grisly. But I want to tell you that if this story sounds barbaric, if that's the reaction that you tend to have when you read the Torah or the Bible or old religious texts, that's a good thing. Your feelings are a sign that we are evolving and that ideas of universal compassion and respect are becoming the norm in human culture, even if we still have a long way to go. It is okay to think that stories from 2,000 years ago are brutal, because they are. But these stories have a lot to teach us. So stay with me, because we are about to get to the miracle of Hanukkah. And after the miracle, yes, the jelly donuts. So things were looking pretty grim for the Jewish people under the rule of Antiochus IV, when a band of guerrilla fighters formed. They were led by a father and 5 sons and were nicknamed the Maccabees, which is a play on the Hebrew word for hammer. And when the Maccabees heard what had happened to the Jewish people who were killed in the wilderness on the Sabbath, they quickly decided that God would understand if they suspended Shabbat observance during life or death situations. Within a couple of months, the Maccabees had attracted thousands of fighters, though their troops were still much smaller than the occupying army. But Judah Maccabee famously said, "Victory does not depend on the size of the force, but strength comes from heaven." So the Maccabees led a series of guerrilla campaigns to defeat the Syrian forces and reclaim Judea for the Jewish people. It took years. Many lives were lost. And spoiler alert, Judah Maccabee is killed partway through the campaign, and even Antiochus dies suddenly of some mysterious flu. But ultimately, the Maccabees succeed, and the Jewish people gain control of Judea for the first time in more than 400 years. Yay! But that's not actually what we celebrate on Hanukkah. Because, second spoiler alert, not 80 years later, the global superpower of Rome takes over Judea and begins taxing and oppressing the Jewish people in the name of Caesar. And then, one December night, a star appeared in the sky over Bethlehem, and wise men came from the east to, no, I'm sorry, there goes Christmas, trying to take over everything again. But back off, Christmas, because we have finally arrived at the miracle of Hanukkah. One night, fairly early on in the Maccabees campaign, when all the major players were still alive, the Jewish warriors snuck into the city of Jerusalem and they recaptured the Jewish temple. 2nd century historians tell us that when they entered it, they found the temple laid waste, the altar profaned, the gates burned down, the courts overgrown like a thicket, and the priests' rooms in ruin. They tore their garments, wailed loudly, and fell on their faces to the ground. They cried aloud to heaven. The Maccabees took time to grieve the desecration of their temple, but then they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. The word Hanukkah means dedication, and the warriors were determined to rededicate their temple to God. They cleaned every stone and lamp. They burned incense and rehung the curtains. They had no idea what to do with the holy altar which had been defiled, so they carried it to a storage area in hopes that a wiser spiritual leader could someday restore it. Then they built a new one as best they could with what they had. Finally, they lit the Ner Tamid, the holy light inside the temple that was supposed to burn 24 hours a day to demonstrate God's constant presence in their lives, which is a tradition that is still maintained in synagogues around the world. And legend tells us that the temple's stores of sacred oil had been stolen, and the Maccabees found they only had enough oil to keep the Ner Tamid lit for one night. It would take days to make more oil, but they decided to light the sacred flame anyway. They began where they were, with what they had, and they trusted God to handle the rest. The Maccabees and their followers celebrated and prayed and rededicated themselves to God over the next 8 days. And while they did, the Ner Tamid, the holy light that only had 1 day's worth of oil inside, burned brightly for all 8 days. And that celebration, not when victory was assured, but right in the middle of the struggle, not when they had everything they needed, but when they decided to be grateful for everything they had. That celebration, illuminated by the inexplicably constant light of God, that is the miracle of Hanukkah. It should not have been possible for the oil to burn that long. It should not have been possible for a small band of Jewish warriors to reclaim the temple from a major military superpower. And it should not be possible that the light of that single lamp in Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago could be rekindled in homes again and again throughout millennia and around the world and arrive right here on our altar this morning, shining and inspiring us still. It should not be possible, but divine light doesn't care much about what we think is possible, does it? It shines no matter what. And all we need to do to reconnect with this light is to pause in our daily struggles and rededicate ourselves to it. Empires rise and fall. Temples are built and destroyed. Elections are won and lost. The dreidel spins one way and you are rich with gold coins, and on the next spin you might lose them all. But the light of love never, ever leaves us. And Hanukkah teaches us that it's our own dedication to this ever-present light that changes everything. After this service, I invite you all to linger in our courtyard and share some Hanukkah light with our community. It's a Hanukkah tradition to eat fried food to celebrate the miracle of the oil. So we have some sufganiyot, or jelly donuts, to share. It's also traditional to play dreidel, and we have plenty of gold chocolate coins and dreidels out there for you all to try your luck and take some home. And a dreidel has 4 Hebrew letters on it, Nun, Gimel, He, and Shin, which stand for Nes Gadol Hayasham, or in English, a great miracle happened there. And now that you have basked in the glow of the menorah and learned of the miracle of Hanukkah, it's time to celebrate. So come to the courtyard, taste something sweet, laugh and connect. Let's be together and continue to shine for each other. Happy Hanukkah.
Wow, thank you, Becca, and Ted, who went afar. For that, you always bring super wit and wisdom and relevant, a relevant thing to the Game of Thrones, which I've never watched, so someday I will watch it. And really, all of us each week, we come here We come here to learn these lessons. We come here to share these stories. And most of our teachers, they teach by their own personal example. Becca is certainly an illumined example for that. So we celebrate so many different traditions. And I know that as I began attending SLC, I would take notes to carry me through that week. Notes on the wisdom that I heard on the platform, just so that I could transform my human experience, because it wasn't such a super experience when I started attending. And my guess is that you might feel that same way. So as we approach this time where we're going to prepare our love offering, wanting you to know that your offering is the diamond of support. It's a jewel, and there are many facets on that jewel. That jewel has facets for your time, your talent, and your treasure, and in equal measure, they are all important. So now as you hold those love offerings, as you're preparing them, now you can do that with your check, with your cash. You can use those offering envelopes so you can record that and get credit on your taxes. You can also do what I do, which is an EFT. So I have my favorite credit card where I earn flying miles. It's a great way to support Spiritual Life Center. You can pick one of these up in the lobby, so you have a demonstration of your commitment to put in the offering basket. So today, if you're holding those love offerings, hold them to your heart. Hold them with your beloved next to you in the light and the spirit of Becca's message today. And repeat with me, affirm with me this prosperity blessing. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Spin the dreidel, light the lights. Everyone stay home tonight. The story is told, the young and the old together. As twilight greets the setting sun, light the candles one by one. Remember the past, traditions that last forever. Come, let's share the joy of Hanukkah. May our friendships grow as the candles glow. Oh, won't you come and share the joy of Hanukkah, and we'll celebrate as only friends can do. Happy Hanukkah, my friend, from me to you. Candlelight or stars above, messages of peace and love. The meaning is clear, we're all here as sisters and brothers. So let's begin with you and me. Let friendship shine eternally. May this holiday enlighten the way for others. Come, let's share the joy of Hanukkah. May our friendship grow as the candles glow. Oh, won't you come and share the joy of Hanukkah, and we hope that all you're wishing for comes true. Happy Hanukkah, my friend, from me to you. Happy Hanukkah, my friend, from me to you. Happy Hanukkah, my friend.
so we want to stay standing. So we want to bless these love offerings in all of the beautiful vibration that we had here today, through all of your presence, TS, and your presence, CE. It all is a vibration of love, and we're so grateful the way that you all show up in this community. And so let's now sing our song.